Jack Rogers, who as former moderator does have privilege.
Moderator, I believe until you have declared it perfected, that's out of order. Once you have declared it perfected, Moderator Rogers certainly does have the privilege of the floor as a corresponding member of the microphone 10 if he would wish to speak. But first order, we would need to declare it perfected before we can move into that process.
Are there any other amendments to the minority report?
As a student now, I was a teacher in Brownsville, Texas with Teach for America. I had the privilege of teaching 6th grade social studies students who were mostly from an immigrant population, predominantly Hispanic. Every single one of my students spoke Spanish. While I spoke a little Spanish, I did not know all the necessary slang. Knowing this, my students would sometimes refer to me with words that didn't quite translate into English literally. They would use words that didn't mean anything all that bad literally, but it was understood that the words they were using did not paint a very nice picture of their teacher, if you know what I mean. There's not a one-to-one correspondence between the words my students were using and what the words actually meant. The proponents of the majority report and the scholars quoted in our committee urge a literalism in the translation of the Heidelberg Catechism that they themselves would not tolerate in the translation of Scripture. A strict approach can accurately obscure an author's intent. A revised translation for an ideological purpose is not appropriate for a church's historical documents. I support the minority report because the Heidelberg Catechism in our Book of Confessions today is faithful to the author's intentions and the context in which it was written. We know from the author's footnotes and his commentary what he intended to communicate in his answer to question 87. By voting yes for the minority report, we are standing with our sisters and brothers who adopted the Book of Confessions in 1967, and those who reaffirm our version of the Heidelberg Catechism in 1997 and 1998. I urge someone to vote yes on the minority report.
Thank you. I'm going to go back to microphone number 10, our former moderator, Jack Rogers, and give us some insight as asked before.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My name is Jack Rogers, Minister Commissioner from the Presbytery of San Gabriel and moderator of the 213th General Assembly. The issue before us is one of simple honesty. The integrity of our confessions is at stake. I support the majority report and ask that the substitute motion be defeated. Let's review the facts that we know. In the early 1960s, two professors of the Reformed Church in America, Alan Miller and Eugene Osterhaven, were commissioned to do a 400th anniversary translation of the Heidelberg Catechism. Ideology entered when they decided to use this opportunity to fight against what they termed the sexual revolution of the 1960s. So, in question and answer 81 of the Heidelberg Catechism, which lists sins that will keep a person out of heaven, between the words adulterers and thieves, they inserted the phrase homosexual perversion. It was not a translation, it was an unauthorized insertion. They felt fortunate to find the phrase in the New English Bible translation of 1 Corinthians 6, 9, and 10, which had just appeared in 1961. It is the only New Testament translation to use that language, and it was only used in that one instance. Recently, 4 new instances of mistranslation have been discovered by scholars. The Reformed Church in America, which asked for the 1963 translation, in 1988 had it done over again, and they omitted the unauthorized phrase. The way we are to understand the Book of Confessions is told to us in the preface to the book itself. I quote, "Each confessional document should be respected in its historical particularity. None should be altered to conform to current theological, ethical, or linguistic norms." Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you. I recognize the commissioner speaking against the motion at microphone number 6.
That's 2 negatives.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I am Mary Jorgensen, Elder Commissioner from Heartland Presbytery, and I speak in favor of the majority motion. I would remind this body that what we are asked to do today is to begin the process to restore the Catechism to its original content. We are not revising the Catechism, we are restoring it. I think this is an important distinction. Furthermore, I would point out again that the original text, and until the